All right, so 4 Michigan State University football players have been suspended after a physical altercation with a Michigan Wolverine player. Let's get into it. My name is Jamahl Kersey, and I'm the principal attorney at Kersey Law, a boutique criminal defense firm. And, before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to the Most High, to God, for all the gifts that he's bestowed upon me, and I thank him for grace. I definitely am of that belief of, but for the grace of God. And I also want to, thank you all. I want to thank you all for your support. I am a YouTuber, obviously, but first and foremost, I have a law practice. I'm a criminal defense attorney, as I just mentioned, and we've been getting a lot more cases lately, and YouTube has been part of that. There are people who end up contacting the firm seeking representation, whether they're facing drug charges, domestic violence charges, even homicide, whatever the situation is. And, they've been finding us via YouTube. And I know that some of you guys have been making recommendations to people to give us a call. So I'm very, very, very appreciative of that. I think we all collectively as a people need to be more grateful. It's impossible to live your best life. I know that's a term that gets tossed around a lot. It's impossible to live your best life without having gratitude. And so I'm expressing gratitude now. And so thank you so much. And, for me, this is the road, at least in terms of YouTube. This is my road to 10K, right? So we're at just over 9,000 subscribers. And so thanks again for supporting the channel. And I understand that, consistency, as with all things in life, you set goals, and then day by day, you put one foot in front of the other until you reach the goal. And, content creation is no different. The challenge for me is, as a content creator, is balancing it all with running a criminal defense practice. Day in, day out, we're getting calls from people who are charged with crimes, and, that's a priority, right? So there's a saying, the main thing is the main thing. And for me, our law practice is the main thing. We have a solid team that I'm very proud of. We've been getting some phenomenal results lately, but, that the content creation takes a backseat to that. And so, I'm working with, being a better delegator, continuing to build my team and the like, in order to make sure that we continue to deliver top-notch representation to our clients, because, that's what they deserve. So that's the priority, but this is the push to 10K. I feel like, as a content creator, for me personally, that will be when I kind of feel like I'm solidified in terms of, okay, this is what I'm doing. And, 10K is nothing compared to content creators who have, multiple 6 figures or even millions of subscribers. But to me, that's just sort of scratching the surface, getting started, and letting myself know that, hey, we're taking this serious. So I'm trying to get to 10K by the end of the year, and that's going to require me to be, more consistent with this. So, that's what I'll commit to. But let's get into it. I know people don't generally like the preamble. Man, just get to it. All right, you can skip over this, but I had to give my thanks to God, give my thanks to all of you as subscribers, and kind of let you know what I have going on, because, some people are interested in it. But anyway, in this video, we're talking about the incident from this past Saturday after the Michigan versus Michigan State football game, and Michigan blew out Michigan State. All right. They blew out Michigan State, and it was 29-7. So Michigan State got dominated. And this is a big cross-state rivalry. It goes back generations. And, in these big rivalry games, you definitely want to put on for your state. You want to walk away with the bragging rights and be able to say, hey, we're kings of the state this year, right? And so in this game, Michigan State, again, got their butts handed to them. And as the game was ending, because, I didn't watch the game, I just saw some of these videos after the fact, things got chippy on the field, right? So you have pushing and shoving as they're actually leaving the field. And there's video that's been released that shows there's basically a tussle in the tunnel, heading back to the locker room, right? So the video footage that's been released has multiple Spartans players basically attacking a lone Wolverine player. Now, apparently there have been 2 Wolverines players that were assaulted, and, one of them may have sustained a broken nose. And so, that can be considered a pretty serious injury, when we're talking about the context of what could be, a criminal investigation. But, talking about this situation, right? So we have an embarrassing loss. Right. It's never fun to get blown out, no matter what the game is. Right. Nobody's playing just to, just to show up. Everybody is in the game to win. But when you have a huge rivalry game, nationally televised game, adrenaline is pumping, emotions are going through the roof. And, it's a situation where, there's a powder keg that's ready to explode. But, a physical confrontation, despite emotions running high and all this stuff going on, a physical confrontation is not typically just going to start out of nowhere. Right. And so I would imagine that, again, they're jawing back and forth. The game is over. Hey, we blew y'all out. Y'all didn't even show up, whatever they have to say. Right. But, I would imagine that at least this particular Michigan player, and since there's 2 of them, they probably had something to say to these Michigan State football players, which then sparked off the physical attack, right? There's going to be something that was said that triggers somebody, which then leads to a physical altercation. And listen, trash talk is part of the game. Trash talk is part of sports. Trash talk is not going anywhere, right? You think about some of the biggest trash talkers in sports, and those would probably be Larry Bird and Michael Jordan. They were notoriously brutal trash talkers. In the NFL, you have Bart Scott. He was a notoriously brutal trash talker from the New York Jets. Chad Ochocinco. You traditionally have players who can get into the opposing team's heads with their trash talk. And sometimes there can be sports trash talk that just crosses the line. Remember when Kevin Garnett had allegedly told Carmelo Anthony that Lala tasted like Honey Nut Cheerios, right? And Kevin Garnett denies it to this day, but that had to come from somewhere, right? But listen, even when crossing the line, and obviously talking about someone's girl in that type of way would be crossing the line, but no matter what it is, reacting to trash talk physically with a physical altercation is pretty much never going to be acceptable. And, as we've talked about other situations that led to physical altercations, I try and tell everyone your ego and quote unquote feeling disrespected will get you in a lot of trouble if you allow it to, because it's never going to be a defense that, hey, he said something that pissed me off, and that's why, I broke his nose. That's why I swung my helmet and hit him. That's why I stomped him when he was on the ground, or whatever the situation is. And so you just simply cannot allow words to get to you in such a way that you lose control like this. You know what you do, in this particular situation? If you're Michigan State players, you know what you do when you get your ass whooped on the field? You go back and you get better. You study film more, right? You hit the weights a little harder. You run some extra laps. You focus more during drills. You ask your coaches questions. You become the best you can be. You don't put yourself in a position where you let your family down, you let your school down, but most importantly, you let yourself down. The reality is there is nothing worse, than seeing someone blow a once in a lifetime opportunity. Less than 2%, less than 2% of high school football players make it onto D1 rosters. This is a very rare opportunity that so many people would kill for, right? To make it onto a D1 squad with the hopes of, eventually possibly making it to the league. And so I just hate to see kids in a position where they can really, just lose it all over something so stupid. And unfortunately, in this situation, the police are investigating. The police are reviewing, any available footage out there, and they're going to be making a determination what they're going to do with this case. And so, there will be more videos out there that emerge, whether that's the actual tunnel footage or, because they probably have cameras in the tunnels, or, cell phone video. People, that's people's quick response whenever something pops off, got to whip out the cell phone, get it coverage. But, in terms of the videos that are out there, it's a little difficult to see, who's doing what, punches being thrown, pushes. I've had cases in these situations where not necessarily, after a football game, but just some sort of physical altercation where you have this, tussle or this, activity going on. And it can be difficult to find out, who started what, who threw what, whether, if there's weapons involved. It can make it a challenge to really pick this thing apart. Police detectives, they don't have any sort of superhuman ability to pick this apart. And so as difficult as it is for you to make out what's going on, it is for them too. So as part of their investigation, they'll be looking at these videos, but they'll also go to question players and coaches and whomever was there and be able to ask, hey, listen, what was your involvement in this? Like, did you hit somebody? Did you push somebody? Did you punch somebody? Did you kick someone? Did you use your helmet and swing it at anyone? Did you see anybody else? I know this is your teammate. I know you don't want to feel like you're a snitch, but we've got to get to the bottom of this. Let me know what's going on. And at the end of the day, folks, there will be people who cooperate. There will be people who don't. They'll remain silent. They're not going to say anything. But there are going to be a lot of folks who do cooperate, right? Because detectives will be cool about it in the beginning. They'll play good cop until they have to play bad cop. And, these aren't street dudes, right? These are college football players. They're student athletes. They do not want to see any parts of a jail cell. And the reality is the detectives, they have, in their back pocket, the threat of felony charges. Again, it goes back to the reports that one of these kids may have, broken their nose. And whenever you have any sort of broken bones, serious lacerations, things like that, that can be considered what's called great bodily injury. And when you have injuries that rise to the level of great bodily injury, now we're in felony territory, and the detectives are going to use any cards that they need to in order to get to the bottom of this situation. What will ultimately happen in terms of charges being filed or not will have to do with the seriousness of the injuries involved. And so, we definitely hope that these two gentlemen are okay. Maybe they'll think twice in terms of, how far you go with trash talking, right? Because, our actions have consequences. And realistically, when you are playing football and you're talking trash and everything, you don't exactly expect to get physically assaulted, right? You don't expect to get jumped, but if you cross the line, you do have to be careful of the things that you say. But at the end of the day, again, I definitely want to emphasize the point that I hope these two gentlemen are okay and they're able to, get back on the field as soon as possible. And, they don't have any lasting injuries. Because again, when we hear about, helmets being swung, then obviously we know the level of damage that can inflict. But I would say, misdemeanor and felony charges are potentially on the table, right? Whenever you have any sort of physical assault, I mean, if this were some sort of, gang jumping, right, then, no questions asked. All these guys are getting arrested and charged immediately, right? But, the fact that we are dealing with student athletes does change the context, right? It is different when you're dealing with student athletes versus, gangsters. But, I really could see some sort of deals getting done between, law enforcement and the schools, and it is my understanding that both the Michigan State University Police and the Michigan University Police, they're working together to get this thing taken care of. But I could definitely see something happening in terms of, serious disciplinary action being taken short of these guys actually getting charged criminally. And, I personally, especially for kids with no criminal history who have their whole lives and futures ahead of them, you just don't want to see somebody start off their young adult life with a misdemeanor or a felony assault charge on their record. The reality is the vast majority of even D1 athletes will not go to the league. So they're going to go into the real world and seek out real jobs. And, none of these guys need to be going into the workforce with some sort of misdemeanor or felony assault charge on their record. And so at the end of the day, this is definitely to be taken seriously. These guys made a huge mistake and should pay some level of consequences that are, right in line with the level of seriousness of their actions. Just me personally, as a criminal defense attorney, I'd like to see some sort of resolution reached where they don't end up in court. They don't end up, with criminal charges filed against them, just for their and their family's sake. Let's just hope that's the case. But there's a huge lesson to be learned, again, as in other videos that we've talked about, not allowing your ego and feeling disrespected to get the better of you, and allowing you to do something that you can definitely regret. So let me know what you think. Do you think these guys should be charged criminally? Should it be a misdemeanor? Should it be a felony? Should they do jail time? Or, should they be able to get off with some sort of warning? I'm very curious as to what your opinion is. So, drop me a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. But if you got something out of this video, please show me some love and hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a new video when it drops. And as always, I want to thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace.